Hello, this is Flora speaking out, and thank you so much for joining my sharing today. I want to talk about when laws become stupid or evil. And I'm thinking of my 5 court appearances, not appearances exactly, but I attended 5 court sessions during my life, and they were fascinating to me. One, two of them actually, were joyous occasions of the swearing in of 2 loved ones into American citizenship. And those 2 occasions are 50 years apart. Secondly, I was witness for the defense of a young friend of our family. A third one was actually two. The fourth one was a sad but necessary divorce of someone I loved dearly. And the first one, actually, when I was 17, was when I was present as the perp. I was in a minor traffic accident that I had caused because, thinking I was a better driver than I was, I'd taken the car out, totally forgetting that I hadn't renewed my learner's license, which is against the law in that state. And what's more, there was no licensed adult in the car with me. And so I had to appear in court. And to make it embarrassing, the court and the bench at that time was well known to my family and sat right behind us in church every Sunday. But it had nothing to do with his impartiality. He gave me a stern lecture and hefty fines and told me not to apply for a license again for another year. And I deserved every bit of it. But I remember his lecture to me when he helped me to understand, as a teenager, the enormous responsibility of driving a car, that powerful machine, and life and death could depend upon it. And I must say, after that guiding lecture, which was not just to scold me, but to educate me, helped make me a more cautious, respectful driver the rest of my life. And it did something more for me. I formed my image of what a judge ought to be: impartial, just, aware of the law, and a guide and teacher as well as a sentence giver. I was lucky in my first personal experience, as the one, so to speak, in the dock. And through the years, I've learned that in some early civilizations, judges preceded even kings, and they had the honor that kings did. They were considered to be consecrated the way kings were. Just the king was the embodiment of the defense of his team or nation or clan, country. The judge was considered to be the embodiment of justice, what's right and what's wrong. But what if the law itself that the judge is deciding, what if the law itself is stupid and or evil? I'm thinking right now of something that happened in the nation exactly 110 days ago, in 1925. That was 3 years before I was born. There occurred what was known as the trial of the century. A young science teacher, John Scopes, had been teaching his science class in high school the theory, it was called a theory then, of evolution, which happened to be against the state law. No teachers were allowed to speak of it, much less teach it. It caused an enormous furor, not only in America, but all over the world. Famous lawyers were brought in to debate the case. Radios were turned on during the court proceedings, and every American was listening to his radio. Hundreds and hundreds of news reporters flooded this little town, and it was on the front pages of newspapers, not only all over the country, but all over the world. It was a real uproar. And the issue, of course, boiled down to academic freedom, freedom of speech, as over against a state law. He was found guilty, but fined only $100. The judge, who himself was strongly biased against him, but realizing the fools they were making of themselves, the politicians advised the judge to give a very light fine. It went to the state Supreme Court, which was equally divided on the issue, and then somehow it just sort of died away. But I was very impressed in reading about that case recently, what the young man said in his own defense at the very end, John Scopes, his statement before the judge handed down the sentence. Your Honor, I feel I have been convicted of violating an unjust law. I will continue in the future, as I have in the past, to oppose this law in any way that I can. Any other action would be in violation of my ideal of academic freedom, that is, to teach the truth as guaranteed in our Constitution of personal and religious freedom. I feel and witness this fine is unjust, which is a very brave thing for this young man to do. Yes, okay, that is a case of absurdity, stupidity, you might say even bordering on evil, in that it really was questioning the right of academic and personal freedom of speech. But what if the law is downright evil, way beyond mere stupidity, such as the laws on the books against witchcraft? For 500 years, both in Europe and America. What could judges do then? Most of them, of course, believed in it. But what about the few who didn't? Or what about the laws, the fascist laws that spread over so much of Europe back in 1938-39 when my family was living in Europe that year? When the dictator would not only fire and appoint judges who went along with the party line, but actually had the laws changed according to his agendas. Now, we in this country do have the safeguard of a constitution, but even the Constitution can be attacked or interpreted in an evil way. For example, before the Civil War, the Dred Scott decision by the Supreme Court that interpreted the Constitution, speaking of the right of an owner to retain or go after personal property that had been taken away, interpreted that to include slavery, human beings, which gave the slave owner the right to go into free territory, free states, and take back any escaped slaves, hauling them out of churches, picking them up in the street, pulling them out of their homes, even if they'd been in the free state for years. Yeah, so even the Constitution can be attacked, and is being attacked. Trump's attempt to change the constitutional right of birthright citizenship, those who were born in this nation and have lived here ever since, who know no other nation, no other country, no other language. Their parents were not citizens, but they were born here. Trump is attempting to violate that part of the Constitution that protects them and to send these people out of the country, though they have no knowledge of that country. Or how about just this past week, the Environmental Protection Agency now trying to erase the laws that many states have against greenhouse gases that are making our climates filthy and dangerous. Or how about the laws protecting the dreamers, young children brought into this country who are not yet citizens and whose parents were not, but they too have lived here most of their lives. And we have laws protecting them, not constitutional yet, but laws protecting them, how easily they can be overturned. Also, how about the increasing federal and state laws about what books may be in school libraries, what's taught in the classroom, faculty hiring, or anything, now I'm treading on delicate territory here, anything seeming to promote or encourage DEI, diversity, equity, and inclusiveness, inclusion. Diversity, equity, inclusiveness. The basic meaning of those three words was something urged by all the great prophets of all the great ethical religions of the world. Diversity, equity, inclusiveness. All of these pointing to the fact we are one world, one humanity, and all aspects of our world and humanity are to be encouraged to help one another, be educated alongside one another, given chances when one group has been persecuted and trodden down. Or how about what's going on in the firing of judges according to the would-be dictator? Since Trump has been in office, 50 immigration federal judges have been fired without cause, except for the fact that they didn't follow the Trump agenda. They were impartial. They were really looking at each would-be immigrant impartially, with an awareness of the Constitution, with awareness of laws already installed to protect them. 50 of them thrown off the bench. Are we going back to the climate of 1925, the Scopes trial? What to do if you're an honest, impartial judge who knows the Constitution and knows civil rights to do? What can the honest judge do? First of all, to remain impartial no matter what the ruling agenda or would-be dictator is saying. Know the Constitution, know the civil rights, put them into practice, and if fired, remain impartial, but not go off quietly in the night. Loud protest. And I'm very glad that many of those 50 judges, immigration judges, federal judges at that, are not remaining quiet. They are speaking up. They are writing. They're explaining the violations of the Constitution and of civil laws and civil rights. And the rest of us, keep aware. Let's all of us reread the Constitution and the amendments and the Bill of Rights, forming groups, attending town halls, writing, praying, thinking, sharing. I would like to read from this really excellent book about the Scopes trial, The Trial of the Century, which came out just 2 years ago by Greg Jarrett. Probably you're seeing it reversed. Anyway, it's very worth reading. Trial of the Century by Greg Jarrett. And the lawyer for the defense, well known all over the nation for his espousement of causes that seemed like lost causes. This was his meat. He went without claiming any fee from John Scopes, paid his own expenses to fight for what he saw was true freedom. It says academic freedom, for which Clarence Darrow was his name, fought in the Scopes trial, was an educational crusade. The political, religious, and social beliefs that trended at any given moment should not be imposed by a government doctrine or dictate on students and scholars and teachers alike. Both should be permitted to express their views and open opinions devoid of restraint. They must be free to engage in intellectual debate without the fear of censorship or reprisal. Diversity of thought is axiomatic in a free society. Yet these cornerstones, values, too often are eroded today in today's ocean of educational gag owners. Yes, all this is up again today, and we are in many ways privileged to be alive and aware at this time in this, and hopefully will continue to be land of the free and the home of the brave. Thank you for being with me. See you next week.